Hello, I'm Jennifer from Enjoying Our Days. I blog here with my husband Glenn. I wanted to tell you about a couple of things that happened to me in my 20s that really made me feel the way I feel about money and work and life. The first story I wanted to tell you is a true story. When I was in my 20s, I worked at a job where I arranged contract trucking. I arranged loads all up and down the East Coast. It was fun and I enjoyed it, but I couldn't get used to being in the same room all day, every day, doing the exact same thing. But it paid well and I needed the money. And at that time I was young and I listened to the world. And the world said to be successful, you go out and you earn a lot of money and you make more money next year and more money the year after that. And so I stayed. But one Friday afternoon, it was almost time to go home, and a truck pulled into the yard. And I was immediately upset because it took time to load the truck, and then I had to do the paperwork, and so I knew I was going to have to work late. The truck driver was a man that I was familiar with. I had seen him before. He was a big guy, so of course his name was Tiny, and he was a talker. He came in and he liked to take his time, and yeah, I just wasn't into it that day. I wanted to go home. I wanted to have my weekend. So I rushed him through his paperwork. I didn't hardly acknowledge anything that he was saying, but he was going on and on about how this was his last load, and he had taken all of the crap runs, the runs that the other drivers didn't want to do, for like a year, so his company would let him take all of his vacation time at one time. So as soon as this last load was delivered, he was going to go fishing for several weeks. He was just going to fish. That was it. I don't think I told him to have a good time or anything. I rushed him out the door and, left work irritated that, a half an hour had been taken out of my weekend. I didn't think about Tiny at all that weekend, but Monday morning, it was early, I answered the phone and it was Tiny's dispatcher. She asked me if I had seen Tiny on Friday, and I said that I had, and I was such a different person back then. I couldn't resist trying to get Tiny in trouble. I had to mention that he had come in, late and everything. She didn't care though. She told me that a couple hours after Tiny left my office, he had a heart attack. And he had died. He had been able to pull his truck safely off from the highway and call for help, but by the time they got to him, he had already passed away. And that had a huge impact on me. I don't know for certain, but there's a really good possibility that I was the last human being that Tiny ever had contact with. And I was a bitch to him. And I didn't want to be that way. I didn't want to become so bitter because I was unhappy with my job that I became like that. So I left there shortly after that. And I went to work at a bank. And one of the rules of banking is you're not supposed to, I was just a teller, but you're not supposed to connect people with their accounts and stuff. You're not supposed to pay attention to how much money people have or don't have. But, it's human nature to notice things and observe things. And what I noticed was how many people would bring their paychecks in, cash them, go have a good weekend or whatever, come back in on Monday, deposit what was left, and then be mean to me because they didn't have enough money to pay their loans. Or, what was even worse was the people who would come in to cash their paychecks and their loans were already delinquent, so there would be a flag on their account that we were not allowed to cash their paychecks, and they were, it was horrible. But I met one man there that I always liked waiting on. He was nice, he was happy, He did not drive, he drove an old truck, you know, he didn't have fancy clothes, he didn't make a lot of money, but he had his act together. He would come in, and if he brought in $100, he would take 30 and deposit 70. We live here in the Finger Lakes in wine country, and he worked in the vineyards in the summer. He plowed snow in the winter. He didn't make a lot of money, but his lifestyle didn't demand a lot of money. So he had thousands of dollars in the bank that was put in there little by little, and he was happy. He was pleasant. He would ask you how you were, and he would actually wait for an answer, you know. So, you know, another light bulb went off, and I took those two things that I had learned, and I arranged my life around those two things. That working wasn't everything, and you know, life is too short to work a day doing something you don't like. So, and also making more money is not the answer. You know, if you can't manage $20,000 a year, you're not going to be able to manage $50,000 a year, or $100,000 or more a year, or even more. You know, so I took those things, and you know, my husband and I, we changed the way we felt about money, and we made changes, and we developed strategies that worked, you know, for us. And we don't make a lot of money. We've never made a lot of money, but we were able to pay off our mortgage. We were able to save money. And we were able to really live a high quality life, you know. When we decided that we didn't want to live in town anymore, we found a piece of property in the country, you know, here, and we wanted to homestead. We wanted to, you know, have a little farm and you know, keep bees and raise chickens and, you know, grow a garden. And when we found this piece of property, we were able to pay cash for it. And we were like 36 then. So, and I'm not saying this to brag or anything. I just want you to know that the things that we do work, and that making more money is not the answer if you don't know how to manage it. We see a lot of people struggle, and it makes us sad, you know, that because life shouldn't be that difficult. I'm writing an ebook because there's this one thing that I do that I actually thought that everybody did. It's only been recently that I realized that people don't do it. It's my one little trick for never running out of money even when we're broke. And it was going to be a blog post, but it's too long and I don't want to divide it up. So I hope that you'll leave us an email, because it's going to be a free book, and it's going to go out to all of our subscribers. Because, you know, if we can, you know, help each other and learn from each other, you know, there's just more to life than working all the time and never having enough money. And, you know, wealth is more in your head than it is your wallet, because if you're satisfied with your life, then you have enough. But if you know, if you're always chasing another dollar, then, you know, you're never, what's the point of having money if you don't have time to enjoy it, you know? So that's about it. You know, I just wanted to introduce myself and tell you those two stories. You know, I want to dedicate this video to Tiny, because I'm really sorry, and I wish I had another chance to talk to Tiny, but buddy, wherever you are, I hope you're fishing. Bye.